City Council to order. The first item of business is the agenda, and we're going to switch that around. Our electrical engineer, Alex Love, is going to deal with two items that are at the bottom end of the agenda, and those items are item number E and number F. So the other matter is that in dealing with these issues, I would like to open this up to the gallery for participation. So we'll let Alex make his presentation, questions from council, and then we'll open it up for questions from the floor. And I have to ask for council's approval on that, and it has to be a unanimous vote. Council, can I see that motion to include the audience in this? Councillor Doherty, Councillor Wires, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Should we approve the agenda then as amended? Or?
Yes, that would be a smart move. Councillor Smith making that motion.
I will.
Second, Councillor Kendall, all those in favor? The amended agenda is approved. And so just a point of caution, when we get to questions, if we could keep it straightforward, and we're looking for feedback on the proposed bylaws. At this point in time, Roxanna has given us a considerable amount of feedback on the regulations, and looking them over with Alex this afternoon, it appears it would be really rather fruitless to
So in terms of what's new in the updated bylaw, I'll just, rather than going through each line item in the bylaw, I'll just speak to the highlights for you. And I've got about 7 or 8 points there. So firstly, we've updated definitions to stay current with the manner in which the utility operates by, for example, referring to the manager of operations and so on. Secondly is the minimum power factor requirement being changed from 90 to 95%. And this revision was made after the draft was received for this meeting by council and will be in the version brought forward for the first 3 readings in October. The reason for making this change is that we are going to see a change in power factor requirements on our wholesale power purchase from Fortis. And so we need to reflect the same onus onto our customers. And reality is, for residential customers, that's a non-issue. For some commercial customers, they may have to take some steps to mitigate their power factor, but it's not a large issue for this electric utility. Thirdly, we have added clarity for meter location and supply voltages offered. And this is to help improve customer clarity on what is and is not available. We have added definitions of the various supply voltages the electric utility will supply for new connections to customers. There are many other supply voltages in use in North America and around the world. The problem is these systems that are oddball for our utility would require us to carry spare transformers and so on for assuring continuity of service. So it's better to go with a few defined types, and if the customer really needs to go with some sort of other voltage, they can always do a voltage conversion on their own premises. We have also added a net metering service to accommodate residents wanting to install solar PV systems and wanting to both purchase and sell electrical energy to the grid. So provisions have been made to limit the size of systems and amount of energy that the utility might need to purchase to try and strike a balance between encouraging renewable energy without exposing the utility to undue amounts of high-cost energy purchase. So specifically what we've done is said that these renewable generation systems can be up to 10 kVA in size, which can be accommodated within our existing infrastructure for feeding virtually any residents in the community, and that we would purchase up to the first 4,000 kilowatt hours annually at a net rate, which means the same as we're selling it to them, and anything in excess of that would be at our avoided cost of energy purchase, which would reflect a true value to the utility. The next major change is we have defined rates for common service connections to provide clarity to customers around service fees. So this is the section of the bylaw where it says for a 200 amp overhead service, it will be so many dollars, and a 200 amp underground service will be so many dollars. So we've established a postage stamp rate for those services. Those fees are based on Nelson Hydro's fee structure, which in turn was based on the analysis of hundreds of customer connections to determine what the average cost was. And by setting the cost that way, we do remove the risk of overages, but also underages for individual customers. For example, if it was a rainy day and it took longer to connect them, well, that's offset by somebody else that gets connected on a sunny day and it took less time and equalizes the rates. It also defines cost sharing for new primary extensions, and this would be the case where a primary extension is run to, let's say, a farm or something, and then within a few years another customer comes on and takes advantage of that extension. So the new customer, or the second customer coming in would have to pay their cost share of that extension if it occurred within 5 years of the extension being made. Again, that's not a big issue in Grand Forks, but it provides clarity for how we would handle the situation. There's been a number of wording revisions to reflect the current practices of most electric utilities, and some wording changes between the draft that you got in the council package and what we'll present at the first 3 readings to eliminate some conflicts. And for example, we had a clause in there that prohibited customers from installing a generating system that's connected to the utility, which is at odds with the new net metering provision we have just provided that does allow customers to connect. So just try to eliminate some of those conflicts. So if there's any questions about the utility bylaw, I could take those now.
Just to, for my own clarity, and I think for the gallery, net metering, the first 4,000 kilowatt hours, we would basically pay the person generating electricity what we sell them the electricity for.
That's correct. And that's on an annual basis.
Right, and then the balance of the year or whatever, they're up to 10 kilowatt hours, we would be paying them what we pay for electricity.
That's right.
Not what we sell it for.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the first 4,000 would basically be an incentive rate to encourage renewable energy development. After that, it would be our avoided power purchase costs. Otherwise, the utility would be continuing to subsidize new energy projects at a higher cost than we can buy energy from.
And it maxes out at the 10.
10 kVA is the maximum installation size, so that would set a theoretical limit of 10 kVA times however many sunshine hours there are in a year.
Okay.
Councillor Smith?
In looking through both Fortis and then talking with the head of BC Hydro's net metering program, both speak of maximum power generation of 50 kilowatt hours. So how does that translate from 10 kVA to 50?
I think they're referring to perhaps 50 kVA. The electric utilities have generally had limits between 10 and 50 kVA, depending on the size of the region.
Okay, so they do talk about kilowatt hours.
Yeah. Well, kilowatt hours is actually unit
Kilowatts or
hours. They
whatever.
might have the wrong term in there,
Okay,
but probably meaning kilowatt or kVA.
okay.
Further counsel? I have to say too, in meeting with Roxana, that I had some misinformation. I had thought that there was a substantial cost to the city in terms of setting this up, but in fact, what's happening is that the homeowner generating the power from their house is responsible for the majority of the cost. Can you comment on the cost to the city, Alan?
Yeah, so that's right. The homeowner installing PV really pays for their cost, which is mostly their infrastructure they install on their home. But, for example, they now need a bidirectional meter, which is quite a bit more expensive than the standard meter. So the customer would pay the cost of making that meter change. And so that would keep the rest of the ratepayers whole.
Correct. And opening it up to the audience, questions?
I have a couple questions. So as to the cost of the bidirectional meter, just so that it doesn't sound like it's a lot, approximately how much would it be on average?
I think the question was, how much does a bidirectional meter cost? And I think they're around $150 or $160 or so.
Relative to the
And that-
standard meter?
And that would be installed,
Yeah, because the bidirectional meter goes into the same meter base,
so that's the installed cost.
approximately.
Yeah, exactly, okay. Also, okay, well, two important things. 10 kilowatt systems is keeping it really rather tight. Even for my own home where I consume 14,000 kilowatt hours, my 9.1 kilowatt system that I'm trying to proceed with will only provide about 75% of my consumption. And it would be good to aim for a lot of people, if they so choose, to be net zero, meaning generating as much energy as they consume. So the 10 kilowatts is really very restrictive. So that's just a comment, especially considering that BC Hydro and Fortis BC have already acknowledged that, yeah, that's not quite enough. Also, net metering, this is kind of like a part of net metering, because Fortis BC and BC Hydro offer full net metering, meaning the total consumption less total generation. There's no limit. So if we're receiving, if our consumption, our net usage is netted out only to a limit of 4,000 kilowatt hours, that leaves a lot of generation. Like in my case, for instance, that is not feasible, and that is actually in no way much of an incentive, because as you know, the cost of the system itself that the homeowner or individual business is investing is already quite substantial, and they're covering the cost of the city to install the bidirectional meter. So to be on par with BC Hydro and Fortis BC, we really should be offering full net metering without restrictions as to kilowatt hours. And I think that was it. Thank you.
Alex, I'm wondering, Roxanne, what did you anticipate your production level to be in terms of
10,400 kilowatt hours
for a year? And in my discussions with Alex earlier, he didn't think that there would be any chance of generating that amount of power in this climate. Did I misunderstand that? And then Councillor Smith is next up.
So I think it's not clear for me if you're talking about generating 10,000 net or 10,000 gross.
Gross.
Okay, so after you take your own consumption, you'll have less than 10,000 to sell to the utility.
Well, it depends. Like, are you talking about 4,000 as an over and above what we can consume? I can, like I said, I can,
Yeah,
sorry,
that would be exporting 4,000
net?
over and above your consumption.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, well, that's fair, then that's fine. Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, did we answer that?
Just the size, the bigger the better.
Okay, Councilor Smith.
Again, I think there's a little bit of confusion with respect to the terminology, kVA as opposed to kilowatts. And since the terminology is different, I think there may become some confusion or an opportunity for confusion between what one document says and what this document says. And since I've read or had the opportunity to speak to both Fortis and BC Hydro, and they're both using kilowatt hours or kilowatts as the main, as the unit for generation, and that the limit is set at 50. That's why I don't get where 10 kVA translates to 10 or 50 kilowatts. I don't.
It doesn't. One is 10 and one is 50. They don't translate to each other.
But they're separate units. They're different units, and that's where my confusion.
Yeah, so they are different units, but because this stuff is basically generated at unity power factor, 10 kVA is equivalent to 10 kilowatts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, in my conversation with both Fortis and BC Hydro, they do actually have limits where it's at par, and then they change it to a different rate.
Yeah.
So when I was speaking with Albertina, she had mentioned 12.9 cents for so many, and then it down to 7.7 cents. So, or like a different factor anyway. So
It's not open-ended in terms.
it's not open, and it's not at a true limitless.
You can check that with Roxanna.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just haven't had the opportunity.
Okay, further questions for Alex? Peter?
I'm a little confused. I'm curious about what you're saying, net metering, that had I the system, you would pay me for the first 4,000. Was it a certain amount, and after that, you would pay me what you pay Fortis?
That's right.
What kinds of differences are in there? What is the
So
typical?
currently, the residential rate is a shade over 10 cents a kilowatt hour.
Okay.
And the wholesale power purchase is about 4.5 or so. So it's probably about a 2-to-1 roughly.
Oh, okay.
Roughly.
Councilor Smith?
Also, it represents a credit, it's not just a monthly payment that's made to the customer.
No, it'd be annual.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you
So-
could end up in more administrative costs than.
Right, yeah.
Okay, and do we have a motion on the floor for item E? No? Councilor Doherty, second. Councilor Smith. Further discussion. So what we're doing is we're sending this to the regular meeting of October the 6th, where we would ask for first, second, and third reading on this matter. So it gives us some time to look at the feedback to this and some of the details of this regulation. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And the second one is number F, and it's the same situation, introducing the new regulations and referring them for first, second, and third reading to the October the 6th council meeting. Councilor Smith makes the motion. Councilor Kendall. Discussion further? All those in favor? Carried. Alex, thank you very much. We're
Thanks,
on our way with this, and I would assume that there'll be, Donna, did we forget you?
Actually, some residents were wanting some questions answered regarding our electrical meters before, and since Alex is here, I was wondering, there are residents who are interested in knowing do I speak with you? Was it still open, or who do I direct? To you?
We've kind of concluded the question period for Alex, but we'll open it up for this.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead and ask. your
We're
question,
interested in knowing what type of meters we have and what personality modules they have. And when local residents have measured the radiation coming from the replacement ones, the ones that have been replaced in Grand Forks, they're emitting more radiation. So is it possible for the residents to have the specs and information about the meters?
Yeah, absolutely, because we really only have about 5 different types of meters we use in the system. And then they all have their own, what's called ERT, the Electrode Receive Transmit Module, which is the part that emits the RF. So we can easily put an information piece on the website as to, model specs.
For the different kinds.
Yeah.
And how does a resident know which one they have?
Well, the meter itself
Yeah,
has,
by looking.
let's say, C1SR ERT, with a model number.
Okay, great. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, so that's fine though.
Thank you.
Did we pass the last motion? Yes, we did. Okay, thank you very much, Alex.
Okay, thank
And have a safe trip home.
Thanks.
All right, council, we are going back to the regular agenda. Which puts us into the inventory policy. This is a final adoption of this. We've had it in front of us before.
I think we're at the minutes. We're at the minutes.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, we're going back to the beginning here. 3A.
Oh, way back.
Way back.
All right.
It would make for a very short meeting.
It would have, wouldn't it? Okay, we have minutes from September the 2nd, Committee of the Whole.
You move, your worship.
Councillor Kendall, all those in favor? And September the 2nd, regular meeting minutes. Scepter, Doherty and Kendall, all those in favor? And we have a delegation, and my apologies for making the delegation wait for us to deal with Mr. Love, but the Sunshine Valley Women's Institute, we have in front of us a number of choices that we're looking at making here, Council. Would you like to speak to any of those, Sasha, or do you want me to?
Are they not going to speak?
Well, we have had their delegation before. This is us responding to them at this point, right? Yeah, so,
Yes, I can speak for your worship.
okay.
So, in their original request, the letter that they submitted, they requested sidewalk from 19th Street to 27th.
Yeah.
We looked at asphalt, we looked at concrete. We also looked at the fact that there was interested development in the area, and that's why we held off the first time, was because if we can defer those costs and have the developer pay for a portion of this, then the city wouldn't have to fork out the cash to pay for it. So we looked at a couple different options. We looked at 19th Street to 27th, asphalt or concrete. We looked at just Silver Kettle to 27th, asphalt or concrete. We also looked at council having the opportunity to include this for the 2015 budget, to wait for future development, or just to leave it status quo. We have had a lot of development interest in that area, especially with us showcasing our commercial property that's located in that vicinity. So, I mean, we either strongly recommend that we defer this to the 2015 budget, or we wait for development, and that could take 6 to 8 months.
Right, but if we put it in the budget, it's not gonna get lost.
No.
Even if we get that development. But if we don't do anything on it, it's potentially just gonna fall by the side again.
I'll move your worship, we put it in the budget.
Okay, and a seconder on the table, Councillor Smith. Okay.
Your worship, you could have basically something if there was no development that actually came in place by, say, the July of 2015, that the project could go into place, say, the fall of 2015. So in that aspect, if there was no development, the project could continue on later in the year.
Councillor Kendall.
But in order to do that, we need to, we would have to still defer it to the the budget process of 2015, and that would have to get approved by the new council. Even though we can make a recommendation, we aren't really obligating the new council to,
Not really, but we're identifying it as a need.
as a priority, yeah.
Councilor Smith, did you have your hand up? No. Gene, you see what we've got on the table at this point, that we can't do it immediately, but we can put it into the budget and make sure that it gets addressed in a formal fashion in the coming budget year.
Speak to Janet, our president.
Well, I must say that we're disappointed to hear that it won't happen in this budget year. We were hoping to suggest that perhaps you could build a concrete sidewalk just from Cypress Way to 27th this fall in 2014, and then continue this very important project east to 19th next year.
I'm not sure whether that has been considered, Ms. Bird. Is that something that we should look at separate from tonight's decision?
Your worship, it's entirely council's decision.
Right.
It is getting late in the year. We have to watch for weather now.
Right.
It's gonna take us a little bit to put it together, but it's entirely council's decision.
So you got it on the table, council? Any further considerations? This would put it into the next budget circuit and would allow us to determine whether anything could be done there, regardless of whether a development happens within a certain time frame, so it doesn't get continually pushed forward.
Your worship, and I believe that if there's any opportunity to help for DCC to help cover the costs of this, so it's not just a burden on the taxpayer, I think that's a responsible thing the council will do.
Okay, and I hate to leave this again for another winter, because that's when it really gets dicey for people who walk along that stretch of highway. I know that. I've known many people along there, Councillor White.
Well, Your Worship, I do respect, our professionals on staff, and we are conscious of the weather changes that are coming into play here very shortly for the winter. So we're pretty much, if
Maybe
it comes
we could
forward
ask
a little bit sooner.
some special attention in terms of plowing, does that
Yeah, we
section.
could, make
Right. Can put
make some
that,
recommendations there.
just that we pay
keep an eye
special
on it
attention
for the
to it
winter.
in terms of the winter months.
Yeah,
Also, I know SilverKel has a terrific local transit, bus that they do, or cart people around to the various places that they have to go. So certainly in the winter, they would take more advantage of that than any sidewalk, possibly in the winter.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of population, even without Silver Kettle.
Mhm.
They got Gables, the Duke War Benevolent Society.
Mhm.
So, okay, it's on the floor. We're going to put it on next year's budget. If there's something we can do to mitigate the issues this winter, we'll do it.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Your Worship, we need a second.
We did have Councillor Wires. Okay. The next item is council reports, and we could start with Councillor Kendall. Say no, he doesn't have a report.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Oh, you made one up now.
No, I took some time off between the last council meeting and this one, and I think you said it best, gotta recharge my batteries and looking forward to the next election, but I don't have any report.
Okay.
I don't have a report at this time.
Later in the meeting.
No, not later in the meeting.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of things. I had the pleasure of attending the Rock Creek Fall Fair. I learned how to cook kettle corn with the rotary. And man, it was busy there. It was really busy. That was a really well done show. Yeah, amazing. And I think they're second only to Armstrong in BC in terms of size and attendance and whatnot. And it's just awesome. Next Deer Committee is coming up on October 1st. We'll be having our count at, we will be meeting at 6:15 at Service BC. So if there's any volunteers interested and help. And we don't need a lot of volunteers, but at least 10, so that there's 2 per car for the 5 areas.
When
that we
are you
go.
meeting?
October the 1st.
October the 1st, at 6:15 at Service BC. That will be followed by breakfast over at Happy Days, and then we're going to conduct our meeting here from 9 to 11, our regular deer meeting. And of course, that will be following our meeting with the ministry and Honorable Minister Thompson. I understand that there's actually a few communities that will be meeting together on the deer issue with the minister at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to have a little tete-a-tete with, the heads of those committees so that we can, kind of unify our and let them know what we're doing.
All right.
That's my report.
Thank you. Councillor Crog.
A question I forgot to ask when you were talking about the deer last time, when you're looking at collars, that type of thing, were you looking at the 2 species of deer through the whitetail and the muleys?
No. Only whitetail.
Because there is a herd of muleys that
Right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few.
Yeah, no, they snoop
Okay.
around the window here when we're having meetings. I
Yeah.
see them all the time.
There's quite a big herd here.
Okay, so just
About a
whitetail.
dozen animals.
Okay, just whitetail.
Breakdown. Councillor Dory.
On your worship, we're in the hockey season,
Yes.
the Board of Rules and minor hockey. I attend the open house for the Board of Rules, for the sponsor, for the mayor of the city of Grand Forks and the member of the council. I wish them all the best of the year.
Yeah.
And the staff. And I met all those hockey players, some from California, Alberta, Ontario, and even one from Quebec. And it was very nice to meet them, all young players, that they're happy to be in Grand Forks. And you work at the work in the downtown area on 2nd Street, and it's been all complete, I think. It looks very nice. They did a wonderful job.
It does.
The contractor and the city crew. And I have one more thing, the paving on 68th Avenue.
Well, yes, and I was gonna ask Roger if he'd give us an update on that
Okay.
while he's.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the contractor's at the point now where he's gonna start paving this week. He wants to get the key intersections done first so he doesn't bottleneck up intersections. So he'd like to get those opened up right away. So that's what he's gonna be working on. And then he'll be pulling through all the way through 68. So hopefully you see a lot of asphalt going down this week.
Thank you.
When I start campaigning for the next election.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, that's my report.
I'd like to say too, Jerry Foster has been doing.
Yes, yeah, I forgot about it. Yeah, Jerry.
He's got a story out in the agenda,
Yeah.
not agenda, what do they call those things?
In the book there.
The book.
Yeah.
What do they call the book at hockey?
Program.
The program.
Program, yeah.
Come on, you guys.
But you got a book coming, yeah.
Yeah, so he's done a lot of great work in terms of some of
Yeah.
our history, so,
Mm.
excellent, thank you.
Thank you very much, Worship.
Councillor Wires.
Yes, thank you, Worship. My report this evening, I'll begin with the Grand Forks Rotary Lobster Fest, which was a fundraiser held September the 6th out at the Christina Lake Community Hall in support of the Rotary Spray Park project for City Park. And I'm happy to report the attendance was over 200 people, and I know there was a number of us here this evening that were in attendance. The lobster was fresh and flown in by WestJet. I also understand, in speaking to some of the Rotarians, that their current fundraising, together with financial and in-kind contributions, along with the Phoenix Foundation grant, is up around the $175,000 mark so far. And they were very, very happy with the response on their silent auction. By all appearances, they have done, they've raised a lot of money with that one event. And the WestJet raffle went to a gentleman in Elkford who hit fair anywhere in WestJet's world for 2 people. So that was won by an out-of-town ticket purchaser.
Yeah.
So they're going to follow up every year with a fundraiser. I do see where, this is moving along very quickly. So it's a $350,000 project. And I hope our budget process in 2015 can see some leverage in there, maybe looking at our legacy for our community from our slag reserve as a consideration.
We did leave that door open in terms of supporting them, so
Yes.
pretty powerhouse group. No?
Yes, it is. So September the 8th, I attended the Freeman of the City recognition to the late Eli
Dorothy.
Popoff and Mrs. Dorothy Popoff, who were longtime residents of Grand Forks and truly aspiring and dedicated to their community and family. We had an opportunity to tour Mrs. Popoff's house, and she served us coffee and muffins. And she told us some great stories about their family life together and all the grandchildren and great-grandchildren, pictures on the walls. She was very, very honored to receive the recognition from the city. And the stories themselves were quite exhilarating. And I was so impressed with Mrs. Popoff's garden. She still maintains a huge, massive garden and does her canning every year and gives it away to her family and her friends. So it's such a huge contribution and a lovely recognition.
She was disappointed it only hadn't gotten 54 quarts or 84
Yeah, she
quarts
usually
so
does
far.
150
Yeah.
tomatoes, just tomatoes.
Just
the
tomatoes,
Yes,
Yeah.
canning the tomatoes, which is a key ingredient for the borscht.
Yeah.
So just bringing you up to date on the FCM Head Start for Young Women's conference that's coming up October the 3rd to the 5th here in Grand Forks. Everything is proceeding quite nicely with the planning. There is a planning session tomorrow evening here at 6 o'clock. So we do have a program that has been designed by the girls, and they have their facilitators and workshops all organized and keynote speakers. So I will distribute this to the media so you have an actual copy of it for your newspapers. And finally, I did attend the Rock Creek Fall Fair as well. And I had an opportunity to speak with the Fortis representative there, a young lady. So I asked her about rebate home energy programs for residential and commercial. So I have the booklets, and I'm sure all the information is available online. I haven't had a chance to look at it because I just picked it up on the weekend, but if anybody would like to visit Fortis's website, all this information is provided online as well. And the library board meeting is this Wednesday, the 17th of September. And it's at 12 noon in the library. They have it in the main meeting area, so hope you can all come out because it's library board's doing a great job. And that's my report.
Thank you. And just one item to report on was the celebrations in Greenwood for John, Mary, and Jarrett was really well attended. There were a number of Americans up there, and they had different people telling some of the story of his life and some of his exploits with Jesse James. And I think what we're going to see is some more interesting coverage coming out over a period of time in terms of what this might have meant for the community, what it was like to live in the South during those times. But, it reflects nicely on our community here because we both shared the culture of the Phoenix Mountain and the mining industry in the area here. So thank you very much for my support from council to attend that event. A motion to accept council reports. Councillor Doherty, Councillor Smith, all those in favor. And only one item on the RDKB, although I'll answer questions. They, the MMBC, Multi-Materials British Columbia, diversion of responsibility for that has provided enough revenue that the green bin program is going to be extended to Area D. And the extent of it is still being determined in terms of working with the existing Alpine pickups and items like that, but there will be an opportunity to expand that into the rural not rural, but concentrated housing areas surrounding the city. I'm not sure how far they're gonna go with the whole pickup. Councillor?
Is there a start date? Have they, were they talking about October?
They're gonna get started with some of it. I can't see it till spring personally, that they'll be able to get it out and running. But it's been so successful that the other areas have all been clamoring to be part of it. So I'm glad to see it extended into Area D, where clearly it's a complementary to what we're doing here in the city. And the only other thing from that area is the fact that they are complying with regulations and accepting a certain amount of waste from the abattoir. So the abattoir will be able to process chicken and other birds and some smaller animals over the next while, and we'll be able to compost them at the landfill. That's my report. Motion to accept the report. Councillor Kendall, Councillor Smith, all those in favor. And moving on then to where we started once before, the inventory policy. This has been in front of council before and has to do with how we handle items which go into inventory and what they're called in inventory. A motion for final adoption. Councillor O'Doherty, Councillor Smith, all those in favor. The next item is the Davies development variance, and I wonder, Satch, if you wanted to make comment on that, this particular item, or
Sure.
I'll jump in.
The property is currently legally non-conforming. It's a very, very small lot. It's only 301 square meters. She has had the opportunity, or the property owner has had the opportunity to sell the property, but there was, they weren't sure that if, say that somebody purchased the property and the house burnt down, they wouldn't be able to rebuild because it's
Non-conforming.
the current zoning setbacks.
Yeah.
So the property owner has requested that council vary the setback so that if that ever did happen, the property could get built on again.
All right, that's the dilemma in front of us with this. There are probably other properties in the same situation. Councillor Smith?
As a realtor, I'm very aware of this property and the restraints that it has with respect to parking and all the other setbacks. And yeah, it would be virtually impossible to do anything with it short of allowing the variance.
Councillor Kendall?
Does this in any way set any precedents or anything, or is it just a case-by-case scenario for these things?
I would hope it sets a precedent that we deal with other things fairly as we are with this.
But it's a variance to bylaw, not
Not changing the bylaw.
Yeah.
No, there's a variance of the bylaw, yes. So putting a motion on the table, Councillor Smith, second by Councillor Wyatt. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Information items. The District of Taylor is asking for us to cast our vote at UBCM in terms of a support for this training library program. Community training was discontinued, and it seems like it clearly is a great advantage to the library to have that program available.
Can I speak to that?
Yes, please do.
I did receive a circulation from our library director, Avi Silverstein, and he outlined how important the opportunity is for this training program, and he hoped that he'd have council support at UBCM for voting. What it involves is, it's a provincial program that provided affordable online courses at $100 a course. Online, and they were college-level library courses on everything from supervising staff to children's story times, which is extremely useful to our local library here as professional development for the staff and for experience and upgrading the experience staff that they have. So anything that we can, as counselors at UBCM in supporting Taylor's resolution, would be greatly appreciated from our community as well.
All right. Those of us that are going can put that effort in. Thank you. The motion is to receive. Councillor Doherty, Councillor Smith, all those in favor. And bylaws, the Noise Control Amendment Bylaw, 1963. Council understands what we're looking at here. This is to send this to, or not to send it anywhere, to deal with it tonight in terms of first, second, and third reading of the amendment to this bylaw. The amendment basically makes it acceptable to have a certain level of noise in the mill and in a production area with an industry. And this is a cleanup matter. It's pretty much a boilerplate kind of wording, but it puts us in a position where we can give some comfort to the employers. It doesn't mean that we're neglecting at all our abilities to minimize that and the kind of noise or the disruption that might cause to someone. We're not giving up those rights in terms of accepting the wording of this amendment. So I would like, first of all, to include the council determines to give first 3 readings to this. And we recommend staff to include it in the operations section. However, we're going to pass it in first, second, and third reading tonight. So there are 2 steps to this. Do you want 2 motions?
Your worship, you can do the first 3 readings in one.
No, I mean, you want us to direct you to make the changes first and then do the first few readings?
Yes, please, worship.
Okay. Okay, the first motion would be to direct staff to include the amendment in the new, in the regulations. Councillor Kendall makes a motion, Councillor Wires. All those in favor? And the second motion is that determines to give first 3 readings to the amended noise control bylaw here this evening. So can I ask for second and third? Councillor Doherty, Councillor Smith. Discussion. Councillor.
Okay. Just a couple of things. Now, going back to the introduction of this, it says due to the timeline, staff is representing the initial bylaw amendment in order to address this issue. My understanding was why it got pushed back was we wanted to see some changes to the amendment, and that would maybe include some decibel readings and ratings. Now I see that there has been information about the decibel reading and ratings, but I see that all of those readings are during daytime operating hours, and the main concern is the evening hours and graveyard hours. So none of the readings were taken during those times. And then one other little point was where it says, blah, 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 yada, yada. Okay, hang on 1 second. Benefits or impacts, general. This will allow for better control and enforcement of the bylaw with regard to hours of work and noise produced by industrial operations in the industrial park. But how will it allow for better control and enforcement of bylaw regarding hours of work when all it says is you can work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day?
Yes.
So I'm confused as how that's going to allow us to better control and enforcement of the bylaw about working hours and stuff. So when there are no working hours, it's 24 hours.
Well, it is 24. So if someone comes to us and says, we want the mill to shut down on Sundays because your bylaw doesn't include 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So we would ask the mill to shut down on Sundays for a noise violation?
No.
No. So in my mind, that's what we're putting in place here is ensuring that we give some reasonable protection to operations of that nature, which was an omission in our previous bylaws. And so we have the ombudsman coming here next week and questioning, do we have policies and are we following them? So in terms of the noise at the mill, this is cleaning up our policies at this point, putting first, second, and third reading to something that at least recognizes our obligation to large industry that's been and is in existence in there at that spot.
Yeah, and I fully agree with the recognition of industry and business, but then there's also the recognition of the residents that are affected by it. So I was just disappointed in seeing that it didn't have what I thought it was going to have, which was some limits, more detail,
Right.
I guess. And then it says, oh, we can always go back and change other things later. So I don't like it, but that's me.
Councillor Wires.
Well, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Cott, how would you determine those levels? Because I see industry will be required to work with the city to limit noise that disturbs the community during evening and graveyard shifts.
Yeah.
So, is there a standard that you have knowledge of that would?
Cover every situation.
Yeah, like I'm
Councillor Crop.
There's no.
If you live by a mill, you build by a mill, you're gonna have noise.
Yes, and everybody that lives there and built there fully understands that, but the mill doubled in size. So it changed the effects. You can see the real estate all the way down. But it's got here the decibel readings that I assume the city was taking, and the maps of where the readings are. And I really like how in depth they got and how far away. I'm just saying that the bylaw talks about nighttime, and these are daytime readings. And then they do the breakdown of auditory, and it's actually not bad. It's would be considered loud. 80 is alarm clock.
But
So
do you not see the important part is that they've made an agreement to work with us, as Councillor Wise was saying, that rather than the details of the enforcement, the fact that we're committing them to sit down with us and deal with these things when they emerge. And that's the part I like about it, not the details. Because I don't.
Yeah, because, sorry, one last thing, and I'll shut up, is it says that the city industry will be required to work with the city to limit noise that disturbs during evening and graveyard shift. But that's not a commitment on the side of industry. It says not all noise can be eliminated, but there should be some reasonable expectation that if you look at that chart, and if something is noise dangerous over 30 seconds, which this isn't, right, then that would be a cap that we shouldn't be getting close to, right? So I'm just
Okay, and what I see is that we didn't have anything before, so this has got to be an improvement in terms of putting some limits and expectations on it. Councillor Smith, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just with respect to that, because it is, pretty much consistently under 80 dB, that's still within, safety, and that if, somewhere out there recording on a dB level 100 for over 30 minutes on a consistent basis, that would be an opportunity for the city then to approach industry and say, hey, look, we're getting these reports and we need to investigate this further, and, we'll work with you to find a solution.
Okay, we have first, second, and third reading on the table. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. That was unanimous, yeah?
No, that was the opposed.
It's a bit late on that, opposed.
No, you said opposed.
Oh, no, I thought it was just a late yes.
Oh, no, it was a delayed no. It's like a late yes, but.
Okay, and moving forward, we have the 2015 permissive tax exemption bylaw. We're looking for first, second, and third reading this evening. Councillor O'Doherty, Councillor Crop. And we are adding, as you can see, the property at, the Wildlife Ball property, it's the Baptist church now.
Yeah.
So I think that was the only change that happened from that. Comments? Question, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. And temporary borrowing bylaw, this is bylaw 1950. We dealt with this, and it is final reading. So final reading, Councillor Smith, Councillor Doherty, all those in favor. And the temporary borrowing bylaw number 1998, final reading on that bylaw, Councillor Wires, Councillor Doherty, all those in favor. And we have dealt with the electrical utility questions. Both of those, bringing us down to the questions from the public and media. We open it to the floor for questions. Craig. He's coming up, it could be scary.
Yeah, he's gonna try and get us to do stuff.
All right, I spoke with Sheila Doby. We met last week about the Reach a Reader program. It's a partnership between CBAL, the Community Basin Alliance for Literacy, and our Black Press papers, and of course the Grand Forks Gazette here in town, and we've done it for a number of years. Last year, I thought it was pretty successful. We had a couple of counselors that helped out, and some border brewers came out, and some of our staff were out. So basically, we're asking again if any council members would like to help out. That's great.
Yep, Sheila sent us an email this morning.
Okay, so there's in front of our office, Overweighty, and I think she's still trying to get a hold of Bilo, so they might go there too.
Okay.
So it's hour-and-a-half shifts, and you're just handing out literature, talking to people as they go by, selling them a paper, which are obviously very popular. And yeah, so all the money raised goes to fund literacy programs in the area.
Great initiative.
Wait, thank you.
And what date is that?
What's the date?
Oh, sorry, that's Wednesday, October 8th.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, yeah, talk to Sheila.
Well,
Thanks, Eric.
Great, thanks.
Sheila.
Do you want Sheila's phone number?
Further?
I got it.
Come on, Donna. You
Okay.
gotta have something.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
What do you got?
I have some questions about the green bin program.
Yes.
Okay, I think it's great. We're promoting composting. And I know that whenever possible, it's good if people can compost at home as long as it's not a problem with wildlife, right? Because
Right.
then we're not using gas up and time when they're taking it in the bin. Now, in the past, I heard that people could purchase the compost after. Is that
Well,
possible?
there's been a problem with it in terms of liability, that we need to be sure that what we're not putting out has carcinogens in it.
The kinds of stuff that are going into the green bins are not for compost. These are, as I understand it from Tim Dewitt, these are landfill caps. And that's why you can include bones and dog poop and diapers and
Yeah.
all the rest. This is not
A
something
lot
you
of
want to
things
buy
that
for
you
your
would
garden.
not put in your garden go into that compost.
Okay. I also heard that there's something being disposed of in our dump and that compost is being put on top of it.
Yeah, it's
Is-
garbage.
Okay, just regular garbage, there isn't anything else?
There's nothing secret going into it.
Okay, I just heard a rumor, so I thought I'd check.
What is it?
That's probably good for now, okay?
No, it's just, it's used as cap material when we're reclaiming portions of the dump that are filled.
Okay. Okay,
Councillor Crog?
Can we call it a landfill?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should learn not to call it a dump. It's a landfill. Councillor Smith?
The caps are actually for other landfills that are closing
Oh, we
in the boundary region.
share it with other
Yeah,
areas.
so these caps are, and that's what's extending the life of our landfill. too,
Right.
Is that this material is going to be distributed as
Right,
caps for
so
other
you know the
landfills. in our area.
landfill is a regional service.
Yeah.
We all participate in.
okay.
Well, thank you, Donna.
Thank
That
you
was
for the
very pleasant.
clarification.
Okay, anything further? Les?
I thought one of the reasons the green bins were being used in places like Christina Lake was because they're not bear aware, they're not bear safe.
Yeah, we've had a number of situations where bears have mauled cans and not got in. So the ones that we have do lock fairly appropriately. We've had a couple damaged, but it's not been a big issue.
Really? Okay.
And we have other responses here from.
Yeah, the bear thing,
Yeah.
all they do is they knock them over and they sit on them. And it pops the lock.
Yeah.
And I talked to the manufacturer when I was somewhere back east,
Yeah.
and I said that the locking system freezes in the wintertime. Like ice and snow
Okay.
gets in, it freezes. And his response was, well, don't lock it. And I thought, that's special, right? But no, that even locked bears can just sit on them and pop them like that.
Councillor Smith, get us on.
Well, just to, point that, the stuff that wasn't going into the green bins was going into your regular garbage bins, and they were a lot less secure typically than what the green bins are, so.
Yeah.
No, and I, the majority of the feedback that we got
majority.
has been positive. There are people who will opt out of it, and it's not like meters, it's not like water meters. You can opt out of the green bin situation and not put out a green bin if you don't.
I would just point out that most of the people who put out the garbage, they put it out in the bag, even if it's in a bin. But 70% of the people, I asked one of the guys driving the trucks, 70% of the people with the green bins, they just throw their slop right into the green bin, no liner. So they end up as an aromatic attractant, basically.
Yeah.
That's what they are. Okay. Next thing. Peter's retiring, his and her fashions closing.
Yeah.
So, where can you buy clothes in town? Oh, Fields, right. Well, how about something that's not bargain basement stuff? No place. When I moved here, I could buy shoes here. Well, the shoe store closed. Well, you can still buy them at Working Place. Oh, now it's Working Place gone. His and hers is going. Bargain store. Fields. That's it for shoes. Like, I have lived in a company town once where there was only one of everything. It was, by law and everything else. But now we're in a situation where we have 4 burger joints or 3 burger joints, and we don't have a clothes store. We don't have a shoe store. And I know that we're not alone in this in small towns in Canada. This whole thing of succession, of ownership of these kinds of things, but there's only one of that in a town is a problem. But is there anything that council can do about that? I mean, looking forward, I know that some of you won't be here and some of you will in 3 months, but.
Well, and I think our commitment is to cut the red tape, cut the slowdowns, make it, comfortable for investors to get involved within reasonable timeframes so they're not wasting their investment dollars. Councillor Smith, Economic Development.
And also lending some support to the downtown business merchants for a business improvement association, a BIA, if that's the direction they continue to go. I know there's been a few setbacks with respect to Carol and her husband recently, and the necessary closing of their store. We're going through painful times, but I think as we allow ourselves to stay open for business and try to market ourselves to the larger community of small urban centers like ours.
Well, we have
generate some traffic.
Peter Matheson here who's worked on the downtown vision for many years. So we are going through a transition, but I think we have creative people around that can help us shape our downtown core. Is that it?
Well, just a quick update for people who don't know. Rumor is that the KD Computers is closing, so that's one less computer store. I hear he's got a job at Roxy over there. Not that he wasn't successful, but he has a small family and he wants to spend time with them. I think. I haven't talked to him. But the other thing is, I don't know if you've been noticed when you go by the Bon Air motel, the Dairy Queen, half the trees are gone, which has caught me kind of unawares, but I think it's Sam that owns the sub-showing. He's bought the Bon Air and they're putting a significant investment into making that something real, so.
Oh, they're
good for them.
Yeah. 200,000.
No, I thought they would probably do something else there, but.
Can I just make a comment?
Well, sure.
Yes, okay.
Everybody else did.
I think we've all all seen this significant change in our community, even, like with the beautifications that we've started last year and the second phase of the beautification. And yes, it is challenging. When we were at AKBLG in Creston, we commented on the number of storefronts that were empty in their community. I was just over in Osoyoos, the same thing. So it is challenging for retailers and businesses to, in the 21st century, especially when you're up against the internet and online shopping, and we're a border town. So it's going to require creative investors into our community. And I think we're seeing a lot of that coming in already. And the interest from the outside, both in foreign investors looking at our community. So we're on the right track, and it's going to, I think it's going to be a good year in 2015 for our community. And
You bet.
yes.
All right, motion to adjourn. So moved. Thanks, somebody.